A live debate on CNN takes a sudden turn. The camera catches Abby Phillip, usually composed, raising her voice. She insists there's no evidence of political retribution under the Obama or Biden administrations. But then comes the interruption. A guest fires back with sharp precision. They all signed their names on the Russia investigation. They went after Trump to undermine his presidency. The studio shifts. Silence, tension, then overlapping voices. A political storm in a single moment. But here's the bigger question. Is this really about one exchange on live TV? Or is it a glimpse into a deeper playbook that has been unfolding in Washington for years? A playbook built on investigations, selective outrage, and accusations of weaponizing justice. Democrats now accuse Trump of using the Department of Justice for revenge. Yet critics argue the same strategies were once turned against him. The irony, those who once celebrated aggressive probes now call them dangerous. The CNN clash was more than a heated argument. It was a reminder of how fragile political narratives can be when the tables turn. And as the debate unfolded, one name began to dominate the headlines. John Bolton. His FBI raid sent shockwaves, raising the stakes far beyond studio arguments. So the question becomes, was Bolton just another official under scrutiny? Or is this part of a much larger cycle of political payback? The raid on John Bolton's home wasn't just another investigation. It was a message, and depending on who you ask, it was either overdue accountability or political retaliation. Bolton, once a powerful insider, had already angered many by releasing his Tello book, leaking classified details, and publicly clashing with Donald Trump. Now, the FBI's sudden arrival at his door raised questions that reached far beyond Bolton himself. Supporters of Trump quickly pointed out the hypocrisy. For years, Democrats had defended aggressive tactics against Trump, framing them as necessary for democracy. But now, with one of their own in the spotlight, those same tactics were being labeled as dangerous, even un-American. Is this a double standard, or simply the cost of playing political hardball? Critics argue that Bolton's raid is evidence of a cycle repeating itself. When power shifts, so does the definition of justice. What was once applauded as oversight suddenly becomes weaponization. The clash on CNN wasn't just about Abby Phillip's frustration. It symbolized a larger truth. Both sides accuse the other of crossing lines, but neither side is willing to admit when those lines were crossed first. And here's where it gets even more complicated, because Bolton's case isn't just about him. It's about whether Washington has quietly normalized the use of law enforcement as a political tool, and what happens when that tool backfires. History offers plenty of reminders that this isn't new. Long before Trump, political opponents accused each other of bending the system to their advantage. The IRS targeting Tea Party groups during the Obama years, the Russia investigation that overshadowed Trump's first term, even the raid under Biden. Each episode added fuel to a narrative that justice isn't blind, it's selective. And this is where the debate grows sharper. Supporters of Democrats argue these investigations were necessary, tied to real concerns, but conservatives counter that they were designed to weaken Trump from the very start, undermining not just him but the millions of voters who put him in office. It's the oldest political trick. Accuse your opponent of the very thing you're guilty of, then rally public outrage to your side. Commentators like Gutfeld didn't hesitate to call it out. He described Democrats as home invaders who didn't expect a well-armed occupant. His point was blunt. When you set the rules of the game, don't be shocked when those same rules are used against you. This isn't just rhetoric. It's political karma in action. When Harry Reid pushed through the nuclear option in the Senate back in 2013, it seemed like a victory. Years later, that very move helped conservatives reshape the Supreme Court. Actions meant to secure short-term wins often leave long-term consequences. So, if history keeps repeating, what lesson is Washington refusing to learn? For John Bolton, the raid was more than a headline. It was a turning point. Legal experts like Jennings explained how even being tied to an investigation can turn life upside down. Attorneys, endless document reviews, testimony prep. The process drains time, money, and energy, even if you're never charged with a crime. And if the FBI shows up at your door with a search warrant, your career, reputation, and legacy take a hit before the court of public opinion ever weighs in. That's the reality Bolton now faces. And it raises a bigger question. Is this justice being served, or an example of political theater playing out in real time? Washington thrives on these moments. For politicians, a raid or a subpoena becomes a weapon as powerful as any speech. For the media, it's another spectacle to fuel ratings. But for the individuals caught in the crossfire, the cost is far more personal. Bolton isn't the first, and he won't be the last. This cycle of investigation and retaliation has become so common that Americans are starting to wonder, is accountability even the goal anymore, or has lawfare become just another partisan strategy? And as Bolton's story unfolds, the answer may reveal something bigger, whether justice is truly being served, or whether Washington has traded fairness for revenge. At its core, the Bolton raid isn't just about one man, one book, or one investigation. It's about a pattern where each side, once in power, uses the tools of government, not just for justice, but for political survival. Democrats accused Trump of weaponizing the DOJ. Republicans countered that Democrats wrote the playbook years ago. And in the middle stand, the American people, watching the system they're told to trust turn into a battlefield. The irony is hard to miss. What was once celebrated as oversight is now condemned as overreach. What was once framed as protecting democracy is now called political revenge. And if this continues, the danger isn't just to politicians, it's to the credibility of institutions themselves. Because when justice looks like politics, people stop believing in either. The CNN clash, the Bolton raid, the fiery commentary from both sides, they all tell the same story. Washington has entered a cycle of accusation, retaliation, and projection. And unless it breaks, each new administration may simply inherit the same script. Investigate your enemies, defend your allies, and call it justice. So here's the question that matters most. Is this accountability? Or is it politics disguised as justice? Share your thoughts below. Do you see Bolton as a victim of the cycle, or as someone finally facing the consequences?